Hi, so hopefully now you can just see. So again, this is both the part-time and also the full-time biopharmaceutical engineering program. So I am the director of the full-time program, and my colleague Niall Barron is the director of the part-time program. And you can see there our emails, and as well, obviously you'll have this as part of the recording. So if you have any specific information that you don't get a chance to ask during the session, you can email directly to me or to my colleague then, Niall Barron. Now, I suppose the key thing about the biopharmaceutical engineering program is that it actually provides skills and knowledge required for both scientists and engineers. And that's very important because even from our two speakers today, we have one who's Mohammed, who's from an engineering background, and then Liam, who's originally from a science background. Now, our part-time program has been running since 2006, and our full-time program has been running since 2010. And over the course of the last, say, 14 years, we've graduated upwards of over 300 graduates. One of our key, one of our key strengths of the program is that a number of modules are actually delivered in cooperation with NIBRD, which is the National Institute for Bioprocessing Research and Training. And just to give you an idea of the numbers that are on the program each year, this year our current year one part-time students, we have 19 students, and our full-time program has 23 students. So they're kind of our average numbers, typically around 16 to maybe about 25 maximum. Now, I think one of the key strengths of our program, and I suppose, for those who are working at the moment, who are interested in our part-time program, or for those who are just graduating from a degree, whether it's in science, engineering, any branch, any discipline of science. And most people are fairly familiar with the strength really of both the pharmaceutical and the biopharmaceutical industry in Ireland. And most people are aware that at the moment, the world's top 10 pharma companies have substantial presence here. Now, in addition, though, to all of this kind of small molecules and pharmaceuticals, we also, nowadays, I suppose Ireland is very much regarded as a hub for biomanufacturing. We have upwards of 20 biomanufacturing facilities. And as you can see there, substantial numbers employed, obviously quite over 48 billion in exports. Our program is delivered by both academic staff within the school, but we also have a number of kind of industrial lecturers who come in to give kind of specialty courses. The school, so this is the School of Chemical and Bioprocess Engineering. We have strong ties with both major pharma and biopharma companies in Ireland. Our graduate employment rate is extremely high and has been over the last number of years. Again, if you've looked at any of these master's programs, you'll be very much aware that in terms of the full-time program, this is delivered over a full year. So you start in September and then you finish in the following kind of end of August, September. Typically in these one-year thought master's programs, we have 12 lecture modules, which works out at 60 credits. And then we have a research or design project of 30 credits. So the full-time then is obviously delivered over one full year. Now, for those students who are interested in our part-time program, these are students who are working full-time. Typically, they complete it over 2 years. There is an option to do it over a third year, but the majority of students finish in 2 years. Typically, then 6 modules are completed in year 1. In year 2, you have another 6 lecture modules, plus in the summer of the second year, you also have a research project. The content of the program, and I thought the easiest way to try and represent this is that our program is biopharmaceutical engineering, so it's very much involved in the production or the manufacturing of biologics or biopharmaceuticals. And this is just meant to show you a diagram where it's looking at both what we call the upstream parts and the downstream parts. And we have modules that cover all of these areas, modules in cell culture, modules in facility design, modules in analysis of biopharmaceuticals. We have modules in bioprocess design, tech transfer. So you can see there we have quite a range of modules that cover all aspects of the biopharmaceutical engineering process. And today I'm very happy to welcome two of our past graduates. Mohammed Mahdi is currently working as a process scientist in BMS. Mohammed actually graduated from our chemical engineering program and then returned to us to complete the MEng full-time in biopharma. I'm also very happy to welcome Liam Galligan. Liam is currently the manufacturing operations lead in Takeda Biologics. Liam completed a BSc and returned, in fact, just graduated last year with the Masters in the Parttime program. So each of those are going to say some, make some comments and share their experience, and then we're very much open for question.
Yeah, so just to answer it chronologically, maybe, I graduated in 2013. So then I decided, I was kind of looking at the way the industry was going. And obviously, just to put it in layman's terms, like biopharma in Ireland at that time was blowing up. And I think just even on the advice of lecturers such as Susan and Patricia, who were two of my previous lecturers, they really encouraged me to go for the Masters. Just saying that that's kind of where the job market was going. At the time in 2013, the only real bio facility was maybe Pfizer and Grange Castle and perhaps Genzyme. But then when I decided that I was going to start looking towards a master's to pursue, I was kind of stuck between pursuing a direct chemical engineering, process engineering master's, or else just a more biopharma related job market targeted masters. So I pursued the biopharma masters, just as that's where, like I said, the jobs were, and that's where the industry was going, and turned out to be the right decision and some great advice. So I started the masters in 2015, and in 2016, BMS, where I'm now currently working, decided to build a $1 billion facility. So I was very fortunate in that regard. Then I suppose what had interested me about the Masters was that it tied the two aspects together. It tied together the science and it tied it with the engineering. So that kind of brings me into the learnings then. And the learnings of the course were very comprehensive. It all started from the ground up, really. It taught us everything from the fundamentals of bioprocessing all the way through to process equipment. So we got some advanced knowledge in mammalian cell culture, gene therapy. So these were just terms I wasn't really familiar with at all, coming from a chemical engineering background. We were usually used to dealing with heavier equipment, raw materials maybe, but we were never really digging into the science behind it. So that was a great aspect to kind of immerse myself into or expose myself to. Following on just from different subjects that were offered, it really just gave us the opportunity then to meet with some well-versed people from the industry. So we got some courses that were actually taught by industry experts. So there was some that were taught, such as validation, facility fit, tech transfer. So these are all still terms that I use and I'm familiar with, and I keep running into them every day. And it's funny because I recently went for another job. I think I'm back now. So I recently went for an interview in my current company, and I was asked a question on facility fit. So that's not an area I'm currently familiar with because I'm not involved in any projects in facility fit, but I was able to answer the question just remembering back to some of the modules that were taught in the course. So it was a very comprehensive course, and what kind of ties it all together towards the end is having the option to either pursue a design project or a research project. So for me, I knew that I wanted to get involved in in a process related field. So that's the job I wanted to pursue. So I decided to stick with the design project, and that gave me an opportunity to work with a team. So 3 other members from the full-time course, and we spent the summer working on a project to basically try and come up with a design for a facility from start to finish, targeting a certain amount of product that we have to produce every year. So that went from everything from researching the type of drug that we needed to researching the market. So we got a feel for the prices that were involved and how the scale up is assessed and how mass balances are completed, how equipment is scaled, and how it's all costed as well, because there's a lot of hype, I suppose, around the pharma industry. People really kind of throwing around accusations that the prices are a bit exorbitant maybe, but when you kind of learn all the details behind it and you learn about all the costs throughout the process, from raw materials to expansion to construction to just maintaining a sterile, clean, aseptic environment, it's the money that's spent is colossal. So it really gave us an opportunity to kind of tie everything together towards the end. And I'd encourage anyone who's kind of interested in more industry related applications of the job market to pursue the design project, but there is the option as well to pursue a research project, and I think Susan's heavily involved with the research project, so this will probably suit somebody who's more interested in kind of lab work or science and technology, or even pursuing further studies down that field. So the fact that the course is so comprehensive is a huge benefit. Susan's already mentioned the added aspect of NIBRT. So during the second semester, I think we got a 2-week period where we got to go out to NIBRT and complete some labs. And since actually completing the Masters, I've returned to NIBRT on 2 or 3 occasions. And each time I've kind of been almost taken back by how comprehensive the opportunity was at UCD, because we really got the chance to get in there, run the equipment, understand what was happening on a pilot scale, because that's what NIBRT is. It's a small scale facility. And when you compare that to current industries, you realize that there's a lot of comparisons that can be drawn, a lot of learnings that are available. So NIBRT being the facility of choice, it's a huge added benefit to the course, just to be able to tie that all together and participate in the lectures and really get 2 weeks of full opportunities there. And the final thing I might touch off is just the career development afterwards. Maybe it's what did I get from the course, and I got exactly what I had intended. I went into it thinking there's an industry in Ireland that requires a job market. It's a field that I'm interested in because I already have the background knowledge. So I wanted to put the two together and really pursue that field. So the School of Chemical and Bioprocess Engineering, having the high reputation that it is, and it is very high regarded across all the different industries and facilities in Ireland, they have a strong connection to the employers and the companies. So there was a number of occasions where open days were held in the college. There were a number of presentations performed by the college and by companies directly to students of the college, students of chemical engineering and students of the master's course. So we were given another access route almost to try and apply for these jobs. So that was all done through direct contact with the college. And even around that, the college is very supportive in trying to help with CV prep, with interview prep, with mock interviews. So it was a great all-round experience. I really enjoyed the year. I picked up some immense skills, as you would expect from a master's, skills such as technical writing. You'd expect to learn how to do research and learning how to answer questions, or learning how to learn. Maybe I think that's a big benefit of pursuing a master's in the first place. So all my goals were achieved, and thankfully I came out the other side, and I'm happy, very happy where I've landed. So just like to thank the school, and especially Susan, for coordinating, running and advising me to pursue that degree in the first place. And if there's any questions, feel free to shout.
Thank you very much, Mohammed. That was really interesting to hear from you there. And I'd just like to apologise for the technical issues of not being able to turn your camera back on. There was the controls actually froze for a number of minutes, but I think the important thing was that we were all able to hear you and hear your incredible career journey so far, one that we'll certainly be watching. I know now Susan would like to introduce our next guest speaker, Liam.
Hi, I'm delighted to welcome Liam, and Liam is going to represent the part-time people. And Liam won't mind me saying this, but he had substantial experience in the pharma and the biopharma before he joined us. So I'd leave it for Liam to do his own spiel. Thanks very much, Liam.
Yeah, thanks, Susan, and just want to say hello to all you people on the call today. Very hard to follow Mohammed's great overview there. My goodness, when you look back to everything he achieved in the course, it really was an excellent summary. So well done, Mohammed, on that. I know Susan had her slide deck there and see people asking for it, and I see my undergraduate year was 1993, so I kind of wish Susan hadn't put that in the deck, but that's actually when I did complete my undergraduate course. And just to give a feel, the background that I had was a chemistry, I done an honours degree in chemistry and a micro degree. So at the time, back in the 90s and even into the noughties, a lot of the jobs in the Irish market were really around the chemistry side and more in API. So I focused on that side of my career. And I started working then and progressed, in my career in what Susan said there, in the pharmaceutical industry, moving up from entry level, working as a process chemist in the API industry, working then as an engineer, working in the tech transfer field, and eventually got on to become a plant manager in an API facility. And what I found then, maybe, in the last 10 years, there was certainly a big shift towards biologics. And I had always tied with the idea of doing the masters, even just from a career progression. I wasn't sure which masters I was going to do. But certainly, my focus was on biologics and watching the market and watching where the industry was going. So eventually, having worked as a plant manager, the company I was working for were building a new bio production facility, and I kind of got involved in that from kind of startup, and it was really interesting because I had the microbiology background, and that really stood to me. So I made a full transition across from API into biologics, and I was kind of working deep in that area in terms of design and construction of the facility, working as a process engineer. And in parallel to all this, was work-life balance. At that stage, my family kind of were getting a little bit older, so it really felt right for me in terms of both my career and in terms of my own personal situation that I maybe should look to do a course. So I've done a good bit of research on it, and I asked a few people which course I should do, and I actually reached out. Someone suggested have a chat with Susan, and I reached out to her at the time, and this was 6 months before the course even started, and I got a great feeling, positivity about the content of the course, the flexibility of the part-time program, and I just felt it was right for me. And at the time I was working with the company, and there was obviously some level of commitment there, and the company were quite happy to support me, in terms of my career, in terms of attending the course. The one thing about it is, having working in the industry, the modules really do cover, the end-to-end, what we often call the value stream, right through, in terms of just completing absolutely every aspect of the bio industry. And I know we touched on upstream and downstream, but there's way more than that in terms of the regulatory piece, the tech transfer piece. So it really was really good, and I really enjoyed the modules because I was working in them in that area. Some of the speciality modules were excellent, and again, the trip to Nibert, it's just a fantastic facility, and anyone who's ever been through the doors of Nibert will say that. And we're very lucky in Ireland, and it has been kind of a great facility to help with the bio industry. Then Mohammed touched on it as well, the design project was a really good aspect of the course, because while I was working on my own in terms of a lot of the modules, this kind of pulled a very small core team together, and really, our project was around, stirred tank bioreactors versus perfusion kind of project. And we really got in deep, and, a really deep understanding of that process, and, working very closely with the lecturer and actually with a couple of peers that were, on the program with me. I found that really, really interesting. The other thing as well, just to call out for really for the part-time, students, is that, there's a great appetite with all the lecturers on the program and through Susan as well, just to kind of, to support you and to look at the modules that you select for each semester and how you manage your whole program. And it's very much balanced around, not just work, but family life as well. And that level of flexibility to get the work done, but understand the needs of a full-time employee and somebody who might have other stuff going on at home. It really, it became very personal for me, and I really found that experience so different from when I was an undergraduate. So, hats off to all the team in UCD for that. In terms of the impact of my career, as I said, I was working as, plant manager in the API, and I'm kind of working in the biologics industry now as well. And, having this course, it really, really is standing to me in my career. And the other thing I will say is that, I'm involved a good bit in recruitment, and, the recruitment process will scan multiple CVs coming in, and very much, anyone who's coming in with that level 9 masters, really is, it jumps out in terms of that whole overall hiring process. And it does help in terms of that first wave for selection for interview. And there's so much opportunities at the moment in the Irish market for jobs in this area. So, I thoroughly enjoyed the course. It's, I've completed it now, and I would definitely recommend it. And, I'd recommend talking to anybody who's involved in it, who's done it before, talking to any of the team in UCD, getting some advice, ask lots of questions, do your homework. But in terms of, checking out, does it work for you as a part-time student? But just to call out that flexibility is there, and, I thoroughly recommend it. So, and the best of luck to anyone who chooses this course in the future.
Liam, thank you very much for all the nice things. And I think Liam made some very good points there, in particular from a recruitment point of view, that you're looking at the level 9 and how much that does kind of add to somebody's CV as well. Thank you very much for that. And can I just say though, for the people who are interested in the part-time program, since Liam has completed it, we've now gone for a separate standalone part-time. So all lectures are from 2 to 6 on Friday afternoons. When Liam completed it, he actually took some modules with the full-time, so there was some during the week. But now, from last year, all the modules are Friday 2 to 6. And as a COVID situation, all of the lectures in semester 1 will actually be given online. We're not actually going to do any face-to-face teaching. And that might suit some people who, anyway, I'm sure some of the companies employing people are going to be reluctant to let them off on Friday afternoons or let them into bigger outside facilities. So all of the lectures in semester 1 will be delivered online. So that'll be 3 modules online.
Thank you, Susan. And just to clarify, that's for the part-time only at the moment.
Part-time only. Yeah.
Okay, just following on from that, I've had a few questions sent in to me already. If people have any more, please use the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen as you'll see them. A number of people have already asked, will Susan be sharing her PowerPoint presentation? And yes, I will circulate that in addition to the recording to all our attendees over the next few days. So just following on, Susan, someone is asking, both for the part-time and the full-time, are all the sessions delivered in the NIBRT facilities, or how does that work?
So the part-time sessions are delivered in the NIBRT facility, but for the full-time, because of the classes for the full-time are 20 something, and so they're in UCD. So there's odd sessions. I think the Lean Sigma, some of those are given in UCD, but for the part-time students, the majority of the sessions are in the NIBRT facility, but the full-time will be on the main campus.
Excellent. Also, I guess this is for the part-time, because someone is mentioning here, sometimes they have to travel for work. And what happens if they miss a couple of weeks during a trimester? Is that a problem?
So I'd say, so typically, no. So this year is going to be different in that the lectures will be online, but in the normal course of event, all of the lecture material is placed on blackboards. We kind of recognize that not all students will make 100%. So in the part-time program, each module is delivered 4 by 4 sessions. So 4 by 4 hours. So it's 4 Fridays, 4 hours. So hopefully they'll just, so we expect that not everybody will make all those sessions, and all the lecture material is there, and yeah, it's not a major problem. Unless somebody's going to be sent away for like a month, 2 months, that could be an issue. But typically, you know, missing odd Fridays here, that happens a lot of people.
Okay, I think that's good to know and reassuring. It's quite a specific question here, Susan, that you might be able to answer. Have you ever had a pharmacist enrolling for this master's program? And if
yeah, I just thought I'd mention there. Yep, we've had pharmacists from RCSI and also down from Cork as well. And nowadays, obviously, in Ireland here, the pharmacy program is at master's level. So over the years, yes. And if somebody out there is wondering, Mohammed is one of our own chemical engineers, but in the part-time program over the last few years, we've had quite a number from mechanical engineering, quite a number from companies like Jacobs, PM, working as mechanical engineers, but involved in designing, you know, biomanufacturing facilities. So we've had quite a range of both different disciplines from the engineering, very wide from science, and yes, to the pharmacy.
And I suppose as a follow-on question from that, you may or may not know the answer because it depends on how often or how closely we track our graduates. But the person was just wondering, for the pharmacist specific question, how has this master's shaped their career? Would you be aware of that?
I think the person that, so the person who had done the pharmacy in Cork had no interest in working in a community or hospital pharmacy, and they really wanted to get a job in the pharmaceutical. And that's what they ended up doing.
Okay, great. So this enabled them to do that. I suppose this is probably a question for our students. From a practical point of view, have the students found it hard to balance studying while continuing their career? And I guess that's a bit more around the part-time. I'm assuming that's someone interested in the part-time. So Liam, perhaps, I know you mentioned it briefly, but you might just summarize the balancing act.
Yeah, and Susan touched on it there about, you know, all the contents of the course being up on, you know, on various digital systems. So very early on in a module, you get a feel for what the scope of that module would be, you know, and whether it be running over 4 weeks and 4-hour sessions. So, and also in terms of how the actual team would be kind of, you know, assessing your performance in that module. So that could be sometimes, you know, continuous, an exam at the end, or it could actually be a report that you might have to write. So very early, the way I managed it very early on would be understand what the outcome of the learning outcome would be, and then kind of plan myself around that in terms of what lectures I could attend if I was traveling overseas and I couldn't go one Friday. So what my catch-up plan would be, and then in terms of the actual delivery dates for submitting any kind of you know, interim assessments or you know, end of module report, etc. So that allowed me then just to kind of plan it out around my work as well. So that was definitely very beneficial.
We try to make sure at the start of every module that we give very much an overview of the module objectives, but also the expectations and when the, as Liam said, when the assignments or when the assessments are going to be due. So we have kind of like a map, a schedule of assessments, so a student can see at a glance what assessments and what assignments they have due. And we try to keep to that.
Excellent. I think that will be reassuring for anyone considering the part-time program. Perhaps one for Mohammed. Someone is just interested on the full-time program. Did you get to choose your own dissertation, or was it assigned to you? Did you have any kind of say, I suppose, in what you were going to be researching for that?
So for the design project, I don't think there was a choice. But they all kind of followed the same theme, which was to design a manufacturing facility for a specific product, and you had a target amount. And there might have been a curveball in there to try and see how you could work around it. I think for the research project, Susan might be better placed to answer the choice on that.
So as Mohammed said, for our full-time students, that summer, that 3 months, 12 weeks is either a design project, which funnily enough continues on from what Liam had mentioned, the bioprocess design module. So students work in teams, but we have quite a number of students, sometimes about a third of the students every year who want to do research projects. Some of them are interested in doing PhDs, or some of them just like the research. And typically what happens is that myself and my colleagues come up with projects, short descriptions, and then students then put in their choice. And again, the choice is allocated really on the basis of their GPA, but we try to make sure that everybody gets either their first or second choice. And so far it's worked well for us.
That's excellent, thank you. Just actually, again, quite a specific question, Susan, and you may or may not know the answer to this. Someone's asking...
I thought that from was that South America?
South African.
South Africa.
For your program. Have you had any graduates or current students from South Africa on your program that you recall?
No. Interestingly enough, we've had in the last few years, when I saw that, I didn't look at it properly, and I saw just South America, because we've had a number from Mexico in the last few years, not so far.
Interesting. Just for that particular attendee, you'd be interested to know that UCD has about 8,000 international students studying across the university from about 132 different countries. So in terms of the international, I suppose, influence in the university, it is quite large at attracting international students alongside our domestic students as well. So in terms of, I guess this is relating to the part-time program, someone's just wondering what the average age of the class would be for the part-time program.
Sorry, will I answer that? So the average age for the part-time is probably late 20s to early 30s.
Okay.
So we often find that, you know, there are, Liam's smiling away there. So we often have a group who maybe have 15 to 20 years experience, and like Liam, come from more kind of small molecules. But I suppose the average would be probably somebody maybe who's working for like 5-6 years and kind of want to maybe progress in their career, or maybe begin to specialize a little bit more.
Okay, thank you, Susan.
I just saw a question that just came in there, extending the online delivery, and given COVID-19, given the fact for the part-time program only, I'm speaking, given the whole COVID-19 situation, and particularly for students who would potentially coming from companies, our expectation for this year is definitely semester 1 and more than likely semester 2.
Thanks for that clarification. Also, just a more general question, what is the most common career destination for your graduates? And that would apply to either part-time graduates or full-time graduates.
Well, maybe Mohammed might want to answer that, because you're probably even familiar with your own class, but the majority, like in last year's group, I think we had 3 in Regeneron. We've numbers in typically very much biopharma, but we also every year have a number who go to companies like Jacobs, what we would call kind of design consultancy companies, Jacobs, PM, so a whole variety. So very much still, some may be going in and graduate placements with, you know, some of the bigger pharmaceutical companies. I don't know whether Hamid would add something to that from your own class, Mohammed, if you can remember, or? Yeah,
so I remember what was great about the actual Masters was the number of open days that were held. So we got to meet all the different companies, from your Regenerons, your Pfizers, BMS, where I'm currently working, were there, and they'd all come out to UCD a number of times. From my particular class, in 2015, we actually had a small class. So we were only about 10 students in the full-time program. 3 of us ended up in BMS. 1 went to Alexion, 1 went to PM Group, so one of those commissioning design companies. And I think a couple went abroad. So, and a couple were international students, so they would have returned. And
then every year we have an odd, that sounds awful, sorry. We have 1 or 2 students who maybe want to do a PhD. So from last year's class who graduated, one of my own PhD students, Raymond, did the Masters last year. So we typically may have 1 or 2 who want to do a PhD.
And Susan, just from my side as well, a lot of people who would have graduated would have, you know, gone in and got, you know, career starts as, and sometimes the titles are different depending on the company you work for, but there's biotech associates, which could be supporting manufacturing. There's process engineering, which are really, you know, a key hub as well, supporting the overall process in terms of, you know, day to day, and also strategic projects. And then there's other groups like science and technology groups, which would support tech transfer. And I've seen graduates from this program going in at all level, you know, in all them disciplines in the bio industry.
I'm just going to answer a question there. How many international graduates? So this year we have 23 full-time students. Of those, 9 are Irish. So the remaining then are international. So I think we have 8 from China. We have 4 from India, 2 from North America, 1 from South America.
Thank you, Susan. I just have one final question here. Someone asking how to ensure that the modules in this program are kept on track with what is relevant in the industry.
So the program, so each year we've mentioned NIBRD already. So we actually have 3 staff in the school, 1 who's 50% of the school in NIBRD and another 2 who are also appointed with the school in NIBRD. So we have a new module being added to the full-time program this year on data analytics. For the part-time program, we have a new module on commissioning and validation. So we kind of make sure that we kind of keep, we have kind of an advisory board, a scientific advisory board for the school. So we just try and make sure that we, you know, keep the course topical, and, you know, we're fairly proactive in changing things and adding things, so.
Thanks, Susan. And sorry, just a late question that's just come in. Is the award classification the same regardless of whether you do the design project or the research project?
Yes, so each of them is 30 credits and the grades, the award classification is the exact same.
So it's the student's choice on which one they do, is that correct?
Student's choice, and typically normally around January or February, I email students just to ask whether they're interested in doing a research or design, and so it's up to the student. Okay, and Susan, sorry to keep you online, we have another question coming in. In terms of the regulatory content of the programme, do they speak about Irish, Europe or global regulatory topics? So the regulatory affairs is actually, we have a module on regulatory affairs which is given through pharmacology, and it's a guy who worked with the HPRA. And I'm almost sure Liam and Mom can probably correct me because I'm not involved in the module, but I think it's just all ICH guidelines. So all European guidelines.
Yeah, European, and, you know, some elements of FDA as well, and a small overview on the whole global system. That's, you know, so it touches, light touch on more the global, but more the European and ICH as well. Thank you for that. And I think that actually concludes all the questions. It was great to see so many questions coming in and such a great interest today. It just leaves me to thank the Programme Director, Susan McDonnell, and 2 of our very recent graduates, both, Mohammed and Liam, for your time today. Really appreciate it, because I don't think there's anything more valuable for potential students to hear about students' experiences directly themselves. So it's extremely useful. So I thank you very much for your time. And I would just like to conclude by saying goodbye and wishing you all well. And thank you again.